And now, here's Rob Dibble.
Oh, yeah. And now it's Jim Mora Jr., the head coach of Uconn football, joining the Rob Dibble Show with Ben Darnell. And we usually go about 15 minutes in, Coach, before we get into our special guest. But you're probably above most of the special guests in this neck of the woods. First of all, congratulations on last year again. Let me go back last year at this time. What was going through your mind? What were some of your feelings? And after last season now, where's your head at today?
Well, last year at this time, we were just finishing up spring practice, which was really my first exposure to these guys on the field, kind of getting to know them as people, as competitors, as football players in terms of their strengths and, some of the things they need to improve on. And I had a pretty strong feeling of hope, and I think that hope was based more upon the type of kid that we had than anything, just the character of this team, and I've always said that, well, I've said it since I've been here, is that one of the most impressive things to me about this team is the character of the young men on this team and their complete lack of a sense of entitlement and their willingness to work for everything. And as we sit here a year later, I feel that and even more so. And I also feel like having been able to keep that attitude of achievement and competitiveness intact, we're a better football team because we've been together a year. We're further along in our scheme installation and our understanding what we're trying to be as a team, offensively, defensively, on special teams. We've added some talented players to this roster. Some of our younger guys have gotten experience and are becoming, good players, guys that we thought they'd become. We're developing depth. And yet all that being said, as a coach, it's important to never feel like you've arrived or you've made enough progress. But I think we're on the right path, and we have a ton of work to do. We have our spring game coming up, or our spring showcase, we say, coming up Saturday, and then we've got spring recruiting, and then our guys get back at it the end of May. And, the season comes up fast, so we've got a lot of work to do. But we got a group that's really willing and anxious to do the work. And as a coach, it's always fun to be around people like that.
Coach Ben Darnell, I think Rob and I tried to warn you before you started this journey that if you get close to winning a game in the fourth quarter, this fan base is going to be going bonkers for you. And you're like, well, I hope they want us to win. And like, yes, if you win, they'll be even crazier. And one thing you've done, you've made believers out of this fan base for this football program. And I would say this, Coach, maybe take some credit or pass the buck if you will. But I think that a winning football team started a vibe around this community. And, there's a lot of people that deserve some credit for that men's national championship, but nobody said Coach Mora. I'm going to say it right now. I think you created a vibe on campus that permeated over to men's basketball and really the whole student body, and it keeps on rolling with baseball and everything else we got going in the spring. But I really do think that the vibe you created going to a bowl game and with that football program really started things for the athletics here 2022-2023 at Uconn.
Well, that's incredibly gracious of you. I'm going to dispute you a little bit. I think there's been a hell of a basketball vibe going on this campus for a long time. Listen, all I want to do is try to catch up and stay with some of the great teams that are on our campus and support them as best we can, but, try to make people that are Uconn fans proud of their team. And that's, one of our goals every single day. And hopefully we're moving in that direction. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I think that the basketball teams, our hockey team, our baseball team, our women's lacrosse team, across the board, it's a very competitive school nationally in so many sports. And that's fun to be a part of. It's fun to be on a campus where so many of your teams are having so much national success. And I think it creates momentum within the athletic department on every team. Hey, let's get some of that. Let's get some of that going. Let's hang a banner. So we all kind of feed off each other. But, man, what Danny and those men were able to accomplish, to me, was awesome. I don't think I ever had a doubt that they were going to win it. And, being a coach, we're always a little bit skeptical, but just the passion, the energy, and more so than anything, it was like their discipline in staying focused was so impressive to me as they went down the stretch. They never, ever lost their edge. They didn't have a bad game. They didn't get out of rhythm. Their defense was impeccable. Their big-time players played well when they needed to. I mean, it was but you saw it come, or I felt like I saw it coming all year, and, that's just a reflection of the head coach, and the players he recruited and them buying into, what he thought was important for them to win. And, man, it's just an honor to be on campus with guys like Danny and Gino. Gino spoke at our coaches clinic Friday night. Here's our head women's basketball coach speaking at our men's football coaches clinic. And so there's a real good synergy on this campus.
Now, we're talking to Jim Mora Jr. He is the head coach of Uconn football. I've gone to many public speaking engagements of Gino Auriemma. He's amazing. He could coach in any sport at any time, doesn't matter male or female. But yourself included. You threw yourself all in. And I came back here from L.A. I was out there when you were at UCLA, and you threw yourself all in as a family man. And I think that endeared you to the community. And you go to all the other games. Now Gino's going to Dan Hurley's games and Pender's and all that stuff. And I think it's the family aspect that you bring, and your father and all of that stuff. What I wanted to ask you about is, you're from a different era, myself included. I'm going to be 60 soon. We were self-motivated. It was a totally different time. We didn't have social media. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have any of that stuff. So it was a little bit different. How do you deal with the younger kids, keeping them focused and not getting into trouble when they're not practicing or playing football?
Well, it's a challenge. I think it's a challenge anywhere. I haven't found it to be an extreme challenge here just because of the type of young men we have on this team, but it's certainly a concern all the time because as a head coach, you assume responsibility for everything. And, if our guys, are pushing the edge a little bit, it's important that we make them understand the consequences. But, it's a different generation now, and their attention span is not, as long as sometimes you'd like it to be. But I think, we have to adjust as much as possible to them rather than asking them to adjust to us. I think sometimes coaches get irrelevant because they don't adapt with the times. And I'm really lucky. I have a very young coaching staff, and they kind of keep me, I think, up to speed on what's going on. It'd be really easy for me to have a generational gap with my players, but I have a young staff that has kind of made that easier for me. It's little things like, in the old days, you'd never let a player bring a phone into a meeting room. And I think if you ask kids not to bring a phone into a meeting room right now, you create an anxiety. There's like a separation anxiety because they don't have their phone. So what we do is, we'll meet for 20 or 30 minutes and give them 5 minutes to check their social media, check in, check their texts, their DMs, so that they can get back to being refocused. And, that's kind of the way life is being lived now by these kids, and we just have to stay relevant. But it's a constant source of concern for me is, are the players making good decisions, not just for this football team, but for their life? Are they doing the right things? Are we giving them the right guidance? Are we putting them in good positions? Are we giving them support, creating structure? How are we holding them accountable? And like I said, to start that long-winded answer off, we have good kids. And so, knock on wood, we haven't had a lot of issues, and I don't expect us to.
All right, let's get into it. Let me start with the worst part of your team last year. If I was playing a Jim Mora 2022 Connecticut football team, I'd put 8 in the box and go man-on-man coverage and not be afraid of your passing game. Scare me now in 2023. Why is this year going to be different with the air attack for Uconn football?
Oh, man. That's what I'd have done, too. Yeah. And, people did that to us, and thank goodness we were able to run the ball effectively. But I think that we're going to be better offensively because the group of receivers we have a much better understanding at this point of what is expected of them. I think that we're going to be better offensively in the passing game because, the quarterbacks that are competing right now for that starting position are all guys that have seen some game time. Zion, he struggled at times last year. Now, he was playing a lot of the year without a couple of his best receivers, and he was a freshman. But he's come back this spring, and he doesn't look like the same player. He's got a ton of confidence. He's got, 13 games under his belt, at the Division I level. And he's a really smart, competitive kid. And so he's a lot further along than I thought he'd be going into his first spring. And so that's fun. And then we brought in Joe Fagnano from Maine, who's been in this system, is a really good player, has a calm collectedness about him, and is a really good thrower, has a really nice arm, can make all the throws. So I think we're better there. And then, getting Taquan healthy again. Taquan, as you guys remember, he started the season as our starter, got hurt the second series. The last 2 weeks, he's been able to at least throw our 7-on-7 drills. Now, he's not in team yet with that knee, but he will be when we open in camp. And he looks so much further along than he ever did last year, and he didn't even get to play in any games. And then we've got a freshman, in Tucker that is Tucker McDonald, that he doesn't look like a freshman. So I just feel like there's a much better understanding what we want to do. I think that these guys haven't been in the system. Nick's able to open it up a lot more, do things that, he's always done with our play-action game, getting the ball down the field. It's just, look, I hope I'm right. I hope that the feeling I have about our offense is correct in terms of the passing game, but it still remains to be seen.
Talking to Jim Mora Jr. from Uconn football. Let's talk about the blue and white spring game, 1:30 on this Saturday, and what can people that come to the game expect to see?
Well, they'll see good competition. It won't really take on the form of a true game. We don't have enough bodies during the spring to just play an all-out game. But it's game-like situations. It's live. We'll do some goal line. We'll do some red zone. We'll do some 2-minute. We'll do some backed up. We'll do, all kinds of situations. So if you want to see competitive football, it's a really fun environment to see it in. You get up close to the players. We try to make it as interactive as possible. We'll do a little one-on-one, so you can see the receivers going against the DBs. We want to get work done because we need to capitalize on all 15 of these practices and get work done. We also want to, if people take time out of their Saturday to come out and watch our team practice, we want it to be exciting for them. We want them to walk away with a feel for who the players on this team are and the direction that this team is headed. And it's important to us to have people out at these events. We want to grow the excitement. We want to generate excitement for Uconn football, and we want them to see that there's a real commitment here to being a team that our fans and our alumni can be proud of.
I'm really excited to see the defense. I think a lot of these guys that are coming back allow you and your staff to add some wrinkles and twists to what you already built upon the foundation you started last year. Eric Watts being back up front. Number 8, Jackson Mitchell, is a star. We love him here in this studio. Having those guys and just a lot of the complement of what was coming back from the defense last year, have you been able to add pages to that defensive playbook, add some twists, add some wrinkles?
Yeah, and we have. I'll just tell you a couple things so you don't come out here and get disappointed, okay? Number one, we'll keep it fairly simple on defense on Saturday for the mere fact is I want to see him run to the football. I want to see him execute fundamentally. I want to see him play with great effort. I want to see him get in good position to tackle. We're not trying to beat our offense. We're just trying to get better as a team. And so while we're adding wrinkles and we're able to do more than we were able to do last year at any point in time, we want to save a lot of that for the season. And we want to be a really good, fundamentally sound football team on defense. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is I don't know that we'll see much of Jackson on Saturday. He's been nursing that broken navicular for a year now. And he had surgery in the off season. he practices and he does some of the stuff live, but we're being really careful with him because we can't afford for him to re-break that thing and miss time. So you'll get to see Noah Plack, who's a new guy on this team that we got from Delaware, who's at number 22, a really good linebacker. Tui, our other new starting linebacker, number 15, has done a really good job. And you'll see a little bit of Jackson, but I think Jackson is an outstanding football player, and I think I'm protecting him a little bit. I want to make sure he's ready to go when we kick it off for the season.
Jim, you brought pride back to the fan base here, and I'm speaking from someone who's married to a Uconn alum. Her father was Uconn. My sister was Uconn. So you brought pride back to football here in Connecticut. So God bless you, my friend, and can't wait for this Saturday, and can't wait